Here's where you're going wrong with making your offers and why they aren't getting accepted, why you can't get buyers to buy, and one major obstacle that's preventing you from doing deals. Today, I want to show you a case study where you can see step by step the flow of a deal, understanding some of the nuances involved. And then I'm going to show you the specific communication I used to get a seller to come down on their original asking price by $90,000. So what's up, guys? Mike Hill, the Wholesaling Titan here. And what I want you to understand about today's video is that a lot of you guys understand the wholesaling process, but in many cases, you're overcomplicating things. But today, I'm going to show you one area where it's the opposite, where you're actually oversimplifying, and demonstrate how you need to go about doing this instead. So specifically, we're going to go through making the offer, negotiating properly, and then selling your deal. So in my experience teaching this, a lot of people think you make your offer based on the max allowable offer formula, ARV, times 70%, minus repairs, minus profits. If the seller says yes, you move forward with selling. If they say no, there's no deal to be made. And in the event that you offer too high and you can't find a buyer, you're going to have to cancel. And nobody wants to do that. But this isn't just yes or no. This isn't just three big steps: offer, advertise, sell. There are micro steps involved at each stage, and you have to kind of continuously massage the deal to make sure that it works. So right now we're going to look at an example from one of my students. He was looking at a damaged property with some good potential. And after looking at the comps, a decent offer based on the max allowable offer formula would have been around $150,000. But with the original asking price from the seller at $250,000, offering $100K under is unlikely to be accepted. So what do we do? Well, first, there are two things to understand here. One, the max allowable offer formula assumes that all buyers buy for the same reason. And it's just not true. Okay, imagine a buyer who has 200 grand sitting in a bank account versus someone borrowing 200K using a hard money loan, paying application fees, 4 points, 12% interest, versus someone buying for cash flow. So my point is, the max allowable offer formula is a good starting point, a good baseline, but you need to analyze and understand more than just the formula. So first, you want to look at cash buyer purchases in the same market and see what cash buyers have already paid for investment properties in the area, which will tell you what they're willing to pay. Using real time, real data is better than any hypothetical formulas. Number two, before you make your offer, you want to look for as much intel as possible. So you need to understand the seller's motivations, their timeline, their situation. You want to build rapport and get them to name their offer price first. Now, the particular deal we're about to look at was on market. And with on market, you typically need to make your offer first. You aren't in direct contact with the seller. Instead, you're speaking with the listing agent. And while they aren't the primary decision maker, they can give you valuable insight into the seller's goals and expectations, and they have significant influence over the seller. Then we have some additional considerations. This is what I call common sense comping, right? And what that means is that there are things you have to consider that don't necessarily fit into a formula. So for example, if a property is listed on the MLS, you'll want to take days on market into consideration when making your offer. If something is brand new to market and it's a good deal, it's going to go very, very quickly. Which is also, on a quick side note, this is why you don't want to look at only things that have been on market for a long time. Like a lot of wholesalers only look at properties that have been on market for an extended period with the assumption that because it's been on market so long, the seller will be more desperate and consider a price reduction. Maybe, but that's not always true, right? They may just not be in a rush to sell. So don't discriminate. The best deals with potential for wholesaling, they won't last that long. But days on market is still an important factor. Like if a property has been available for, say, 60 days, you can assume that there isn't much competition and you can present a lower offer. But if it's newly available and the numbers are looking good, you can anticipate some competition. You know there are other investors who are going to make offers. There are other wholesalers making offers, and that most of them are sticking with that 70% of ARV formula. So you may have to be more competitive with the offer to get it accepted. The first step is to get this accepted so you have equitable interest, meaning you have the rights to try and sell the deal. Now, you can't offer unreasonably high, but if you need to offer a little bit higher than that traditional formula to get your contract accepted, especially in the case of like a stubborn seller, that's what you got to do. And I'm going to show you why this doesn't matter in just a second. But in our case study, my student had to do just that. He had to offer a bit higher than what's traditionally acceptable because he had to get control of the property first. Which brings us to step 2, negotiations. Now, a lot of people think that negotiations end when you enter into your contract. But in actuality, that's where most negotiations begin. The key is to have that contract written properly. Everything needs to be nice and tight. So in this case, we rely very heavily on our inspection contingency. And this is especially important if you are virtually wholesaling. So my student did his initial due diligence by asking about the condition and made his offer contingent on that information. In signing the contract, he essentially said, based on the information provided, I'm comfortable making an offer of $200,000. As a part of our agreement, we have this contingency saying that I can send someone over to do a quick walkthrough, and if there's anything else going on with the property, we can renegotiate price or terms, or I can just walk away from this thing. And when the seller signs, they are agreeing to those terms. So once signed, our next step is to start advertising the property. You're going to email and text to your existing list, send direct mail, use Facebook ads, Facebook Marketplace, etc. So I sent the deal to my buyers. I made showing arrangements, and the offers came back with a range from $145,000 to $180,000. And that's what you want. You want real buyers, aka the marketplace, to tell you what the property is worth, not some hypothetical formula. Now you might be saying, well, Mike, there's no profit in that, man. Like purchase price is 200, offers are 180K max. And that's where your inspection clause comes into play. So let me show you one of the conversations I had with one of the buyers who saw this. So here's a little snippet of a conversation I had with one of these buyers, right? And essentially what I'm doing here is telling him, listen, I'm going to be open with you, but I need to know where you need to be. And I can't make guarantees. Listen, I'm in here to make money too, right? So I'm going to do what's in my best interest. And I do have other people looking at this, right? So they do know they can't just try to price haggle me to death. They do have to give me essentially what would be their best offer. But I say, listen, I'll try my best to get you what I can. And if I can't do it for this one, I'll be sure you're my first call on the next one, right? And so that's essentially what we're doing here. You'll see I say, okay, let me know where you need to be. I'm going to start working on my price reduction presentation. If you can send me your repair estimates, any itemized points, or any pictures you took, I can use that to help get the price down. So buyer says, okay, yeah, I can do that. I send him a little reminder text, and this is what he sends me, okay? So he's at the property. This property is about 4 hours from where I live, right? A 4-hour flight from where my student lives, right? Maybe a little more than that. We can see some pictures of the property. And then he says, roots from trees are separating the foundation. So there are 4 things going on here. First is that I'm qualifying my buyer and seeing exactly where we need to be so we can get this done. Secondly, I'm building massive rapport with my buyer. I'm letting him know, hey, I'm your guy. Okay, I'm going to work for you. Our relationship is not going to be one of manipulation and constant price haggling. My goal is not to nickel and dime you on this one deal. I want you to come back to me all the time. I want you to buy multiple properties from me. I want you to tell your friends about me. I want you to see that I'm transparent. And that doesn't mean I'm always going to tell you exactly what I'm making on each deal, but there's a level of transparency, trust, and comfortability you have by working with me. So number 3, some of you may have had experiences, I know I certainly have, where buyers will see your fee at closing and they get upset if you're making a significant amount. But here, I'm demonstrating massive value, right? I'm showing them that I will go back to the seller and negotiate on your behalf. I'm going to create the price reduction presentation. I'm going to do all the negotiations so you don't have to. I'm going to do everything in my power to get you to your number. So now, when I make a substantial fee, they can see that I've earned it. All right. And number 4, I'm getting valuable intel needed for my price reduction. So I asked the buyer for those pictures and for their repair estimates. And I can use that to justify asking for a price reduction when I speak to the seller. Now, typically it's better when buyers can itemize things for you and be as specific as possible. Sometimes they'll even give you a full inspection report that you can use. Now, in this case, the feedback from the buyer was a little bit vague, right? But I can still work with it. And so the next step is going to be renegotiations. So now I know exactly where I need to be, and my goal is to get the seller to come down on their price. And look, guys, I'm not being greedy here, okay? The marketplace told me what this is worth to an investor, and now I just need to show the seller that. So here's where presentation and perception becomes incredibly important. So I put together a PDF and an email to justify that price reduction. Now, I don't know if the roots that we saw are actually structurally damaging, but I can use it to plead my case. And I did get that feedback from multiple buyers. Also, while I could simply ask for a lower price verbally or via text, the optics of the PDF, it just makes it look more legitimate, more professional, and it goes a long way in being more persuasive. All right, so now let's look at this PDF that I put together. This was a very quick one, right? And so this information here, this is all publicly available information. You can get that from the property appraiser site, from Zillow, and it just makes it look like you know what you're talking about. It makes it look more professional. Now, let's say, just as an example, right? If a bank wants to determine how much a property is worth, they'll have a realtor go out there and provide what's called a BPO. And so that's going to be the broker price opinion, which is how much the property is worth. Sometimes they go in. I know guys who just go and they look at comps. Maybe they'll check out the outside and they'll come up with that valuation. So what I've done here is essentially a reverse BPO. So in order to kind of prove my numbers, I look at comps. I'm not making stuff up. There are no lies here, but I'm skewing towards the lower comps. So rather than, a lot of realtors, if they're trying to sell you something, what do? They show you the potential. They show you the highest comps. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in here and I'm showing the absolute lowest comps. So that's going to help me to drive my point home in asking for that price reduction. Again, you can't argue with this stuff, right? This is actual stuff. Okay, and then we'll also look at potential distress comps in the area. So that's going to be things like, any foreclosures that are going on, essentially showing that, this is lower than you thought, or I could get a better deal, right? Is what we're doing here. So now let's take a look at the email. So this is the email that I sent to my student to go ahead and forward to the listing agent. And remember, guys, when I work with students, as much as it's a mentor-mentee relationship, it's also a partnership. So again, he got the property under contract. I am sourcing the buyers. Now we're trying to get the price reduction. He's not sure how to do it. So I just wrote up this email, and essentially, here's what it says. Hey, thank you for allowing us access to the property. Inspection has been completed, and the current project estimates are exceeding initial assumptions. Repairs are more significant, and see, I don't have to go into super detail, but I can show, again, I can show my picture showing that I was there at the property. The property is going to need complete demo. It's going to need a rehab with fully permitted work. Most notably are what appear to be structural issues. Please see photos below showing roots from the trees that are separating the foundation. Again, I just took that straight from the buyer and regurgitated that here. In addition, I attached the PDF that I created. I attached that here. So that's down here. And then say, essentially saying we can confidently move forward with the sale if the seller is willing to agree to a price reduction reflecting the current condition. Then we give them the terms. And then basically I send this to my student. I say, okay, what you need to do is attach this addendum here that's calling for the price reduction, etc. So he sends that off, and then we'll take a look at the text message. Okay, and just a snippet of a conversation with my student. He says, done. I just sent the email, the addendum, and copied you with pictures waiting on response. They countered at 165. Based on that, I told them, listen, I tell them they have a deal. We made the counter actually at 150. They countered at 165, and we did that assuming that they would, we justified it, right? And assuming they would come back with their own counter. Then when they come down to 165, that tells them where their head is at, right? We're initially at 200. So I would tell them, listen, we said 150, they counter 165. I said, I will tell them we'll take it at 160. They'll likely take it. And he said, okay. They accepted at 160. Now, this doesn't need to take long or be fancy. Like, you could simply write up some facts about the property from the appraiser site or from Zillow, beds, baths, square footage, etc. Drag in a few pictures, add your commentary, make the thing look good aesthetically, and export it as a PDF. And you can see here that the seller agreed to a price reduction all the way down to $160,000, down from the original asking price of $250,000, and we have an existing offer of $180,000 already in place. But here's the thing, if you made this offer, $160,000 initially, you likely would not have gotten the deal accepted. If you didn't go through these micro steps and work the deal through each stage, gaining that feedback and intel, you probably would have canceled. Which brings me to today's primary takeaway. It is far easier to negotiate once you're already in contract. And that's why it doesn't matter if you offer a little bit too high. Like, as a matter of fact, one of my mentors once said, if you get your offer accepted the first time, you'll probably offer too high. And this is deeply rooted in seller psychology. So as I stated before, if you tried to go in at 160K initially, probably would have been rejected. The seller isn't committed to you. They're fielding other offers. So you find a sweet spot that's admittedly a little bit high, but it puts you in the ballpark of potential. Now that seller, they're committed to you. And when we make decisions as human beings, we want to be right. Like, our minds will look for ways to justify the decisions that we've already made. Next, you have to remember you're dealing with motivated sellers. There is a reason they want to sell, and it's often a pain point. So once you're in contract, they start anticipating the closing. They felt that relief of selling. They have the solution to their pain point. They've mentally envisioned the sale, and they're already making plans contingent on that closing. They mentally spent the profit. And finally, that the thought of starting all over is painful, right? Who's to say they'll get another offer in a timely manner? Who's to say another buyer won't come back with the same findings, especially when you've justified it? Here, they have a sure thing versus venturing out into the unknown. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You're already closer to a definitive closing versus starting over, going into the unknown. And consider that people are more motivated by potential loss than by gain. They won't want to lose what they already have. In this case, the potential sale. I mean, think about it. What's a stronger motivator for you? If I offered you $100, yeah, that's cool. But what if I told you I'm going to take $100 out of your bank account? So for all of those reasons, the seller is much more likely to agree to a price reduction once in contract. So guys, this is just one example of what an actual deal looks like when you're going through the process, but every deal has its own unique challenges, right? There's so many other things that could go on during the course of a deal, and there are a lot of different ways that we can use clauses and creativity and different strategies to make deals, to negotiate, renegotiate, and to save deals. So if you guys want some help with this, I do offer a few free one-on-one calls each week where I'll sit down and analyze where you are in your business, tell you what you're doing wrong, answer all of your questions, and give you a game plan on how to do your first or next deal as fast as possible. And my recommendation is different, by the way, for everyone depending on your situation. This isn't a sales call, right? It's strictly value oriented. I've done over 100 of these calls, and I have a 100% positive feedback on the call, right? Every single person who's been on this call said they got massive value and clarity. And then if you are interested in working with me directly in any capacity, whether it's joint venturing on deals together, joining my group coaching program, or seeing if one-on-one mentorship is right for you, one-on-one, that's where you have my direct phone number. I work with you on your deals. You guys saw it here. Everything from helping you make offers to talking to other parties on your behalf to negotiating. Whatever it takes to get deals done, right? If you're interested in any of those, I can give you more information after our call. You can look at it if you'd like to work together. Now, at this current time, I'm taking these calls personally, right? 12 years in the game. And I'm doing this personally still, so spaces are very limited, right? I do limit those spots. They do fill up every week, so it is first come, first serve. If you want to grab a spot, go to wholesalingwithmike.com/call. Hit me up. I'm pretty easy to talk to. You guys can ask me any questions you have, and let's get you off the hamster wheel, man. The trial and error, all that stuff. I'll give you the fastest way to, again, get your first or next deal done, and then how to make it consistent every month. And then ideally, you could bring me one of those deals. I'll sell it for you, and we create some win-win scenarios together. So now I got to ask you guys for your opinions, right? Please let me know, what video would you like me to make next? Where are you guys struggling? Like, I always want to make sure these videos are relevant and meaningful to your personal situations. So please let me know down in the comments below. If you have any questions about today's video, please drop those in the comment section below as well. Guys, please do subscribe to the channel. Helps out a great deal. And I want to make sure you don't miss any extra videos, but definitely appreciate your support. Thank you for supporting the channel. Really just enjoy this stuff and appreciate you guys. So thanks so much. Like, comment, share. Thank you again. All right. And I guess I'll look through your feedback. I do read those comments. I'll see what video we're doing next, and I'll see you there. All right. See you in the next video. Have a good one, guys. Peace.